So we talked an awful lot about everything that makes the GM Sandbox what it is, or the GM Theatre, however you wanted to call it, or whatever you want to call it rather. But we haven't talked a lot about using it. Now, I play with the USN, and we use this in such a way that kind of reflects tabletop games in a way. It's heavy roleplay, and well, it can be heavy roleplay, and we use TeamSpeak for the voice-to-voice, obviously, for communication between ships, but not only that, communication between NPC ships to player ships. So rather than going around in the comm officer, all they have to do really is just, you know, go into the comm menu and find what other ship you want to like talk to, and you don't get much of a dynamic response because all they seem to ever say is we have nothing to say to you. Instead of that, with everything combined with all the new ships and the fleet spawner and everything, there's a much more lively environment, if you like. Things have a bit more life to them, and pairing that with the GM interaction as characters, I feel like it gives the players an opportunity to really have that diplomatic solution, have that immersion factor be a little bit deeper, you know? So anyway, you want to play, you want to do something. You can define your space, which I'll do a video on defining the space in which you want to play. But for now, I am going to just jump into one of the sectors we have. So using the menu system, I'm going to push Q, and it's going to bring up a system here. I'm going to go ahead and use the Dionysus system, which is was our main play space for a while. And here we are in the first sector of Dionysus. You see we get a system position update of 1-0. So we know where we are, and there's a bunch of ships have spawned here. We've got civilians, so Halcyon is a civilian company that we've put in, a mining ship, and a transport ship, and a cargo ship, and a mining ship as well. And I'm going to be talking about this from a GM perspective. So this guy here, he's a mining ship. Maybe he would be going to the asteroid, so I would just select him, go to the set waypoint. So S for the ship controls is a big thing. S for setting anything to do with the ship, really, and then I've pressed set waypoint there. And if I thought he wanted to get there any quicker, I could use something like the elite systems thing there. So we've got elite systems, warp, and there he's warping. And if he's warping and you want to stop him warping, you just push warp again, and he slows down. Nice. We also have cloak and optimize maneuver. Now, all the rest of the elite behaviors seem to rely on something more than simple toggling on and off, because they don't seem to work. So I filtered through as best I could, trying them all to see what would work on ships, and it seems that cloaking, warping, and optimizing the maneuvers are the only ones that really work properly. All the rest of them require a little bit more on the, a little bit more on the back end for them to work correctly. The jump drive, for instance, you toggle it, you would expect them to just jump, but they don't. They clearly need to do a little bit more thinking in the background in order for that to work. Anyway, so yeah, we have this environment to play in, and you have your player ship, and maybe as a GM you would give them a mission. You might have done this prior to the game, or you might speak as Dionysus Outpost. You might come across the comms saying, "This is Dionysus Outpost. We need you to go to sector 02, or whatever you want to call your sectors, Galactic East, whatever." Because we've heard a disturbance in the trade lanes, and Aura is requesting USN assistance, that kind of thing. And so your players would respond in whatever convention you choose, and hopefully get on their way fairly shortly. The science officer, if they were in the science screen, would be looking around and seeing that we have this guy, this miner. He's a fairly reliable informant. So, it gives a little bit of life to his character already. He's a miner, he's got a little small mining ship, and he's a reliable informant. What kind of guy is he? Is he maybe just like a that guy who's just leads a fairly simple life and he just wants to do good by everybody? Is he that kind of guy? And the reason why you might want to think about this sort of thing as a GM is if the players go up to a ship, say the players went up to this transport ship here, they started flying towards it. I, as a GM, would click on it and go, okay, what's in there? Vessels shows 13 life signs, but appears to be attempting to block our deep scans. Why the hell would that be? As a transport ship, Tiberius Transport, maybe the actual name of the company or the name of the faction might say a lot to you. They might be kind of snooty. They might have particular dealings in your storyline. They might have a particular business line. Maybe they work on a lot of stuff which is not classified, but you know, trade secret, that kind of thing. And so they might have a reason to block deep scans because they're transporting something in their transport ship that is sensitive, and they don't want people getting wind of their new technology or something. On the other hand, the blocking of deep scans might be because they're smuggling fugitives or something like that. You can decide as a GM. So when they approach that ship, you just, on the fly, if you want to use dice, I use a d20 sometimes just to sort of go, okay, possibilities. They're good, they're bad, let's roll the dice. Or something good, something not so good. I roll the dice and I see what happens. I interpret it however I will. And say I've chosen, hey, these guys are just, you know, transporting something that is unique to their company, and they want to make sure nobody gets wind of it. I would play that off. If they hail the ship, I would just respond in whatever voice I wanted to as Captain someone or Trader someone or whatever you want to call him, or perhaps just as a random guy who's part of this crew. He's a new guy, maybe he just runs over to the console and goes, yeah, this is Tiberius Transport. Is there a problem? That kind of thing. You know, just kind of ham it up, try and play off who this character is, and all of this information about the ship. Maybe what he would say. Perhaps the players have communicated with him in a different way. So we've got C62. It was, yeah, C62. What just happened there? All right, C62. If you hail him, what's he saying? Currently on a job, so can't take passengers. So, you know, can't glean too much from that. He's definitely not, he doesn't seem too open. So if he's taken, he can't take on passengers because he's on a job. He might be the dismissive type. Again, you as a GM can interpret that how you will, and all that information just feeds into what you have in your imagination as to who this character is. And obviously, you don't have to do it for every single one. And that's kind of the point. When you see your players doing something, going in a certain direction, you flesh it out as and when it comes. If you've ever GM'd any sort of tabletop role-playing game, hopefully you understand where I'm coming from in this. Anyway, I need to stop that guy going around in circles. I need to set him back to his regular behaviour. There we go, core AI. Oh, and I press stop. There we go. Alright, so once that's happened, say they've been sitting in this sector for a little while, maybe you want a ship to spawn from the research center. Maybe we want to have a civilian science vessel coming out from the research center. Oh, something else spawned there. That was weird. So yeah, civilian science vessel. We got a Tiberius science vessel coming away, and maybe he's going to do something in the nebulas. So press S again, selecting him, and then setting his waypoint. And then again, maybe just setting a warp for him. Set him into warp, so he's away to the nebula. This is all just to make the place feel a little bit more alive. And obviously your players are doing their thing. Everybody is doing their job, and eventually they might get round to following their orders. This guy's got battle scars. What's he doing? What's he been doing? Alright. Let's back out these menus as well. Alright. So away they go. Maybe, by the way, maybe at Dionysus Outpost, the reason they were hanging around for so long is because they were getting an upgrade of some kind. You can give upgrades. The U button I've left as upgrade just now. You can give them more coolant. You can give them more shields. So right now they've got 80 shields. If you improve their shields, you won't see it immediately, but they start to generate into a maximum. And I've just added 50, so let's add 100. Let's go once again with that one. You can see they go yellow because they're nowhere near maximum anymore. And if you want to improve engines as well, you can. Small increments of engine improvements are quite useful. Just turning so you can see the effect. It also improves their maneuver. So there's a slight improvement there. And you could do the same if you wanted to make them appear damaged in some way, or restrict their movement in a space because maybe, I don't know, it's some kind of natural phenomenon that they'd never encountered, a specific kind of nebula that really slows them down. Although even just setting damage to their engines would do that pretty well, I think. Setting damage to the engines like that, yeah, they just kind of grind to a halt. Oh no, they don't grind to a halt. Why don't they grind to a halt? They're still warping. This doesn't make any sense. Oh wait, because it's warp drive, it's not impulse drive. So let's damage their warp. Oh, I'm in the wrong screen. Oh no. Let's go back to there. Obviously I wouldn't be controlling multiple things. So yeah, I've damaged their warp, and you can see now they're trundling along on impulse power, and even then their impulse engines are at 16%. So if you wanted to, you could use the damage menu to sort that sort of stuff out. Or inversely, you could play it like a bit of role play, like you're a guy in the engineering base saying, hey, like something bad's happened. They're again in a nebulous cloud of some kind, and it's messing with their core. It's like causing immense destabilization. There's overheating going on, so their warp drives are down. You could wait for the players to try and think of something to do. Like they might take it upon themselves to think of something they could use in the ship that might help them with fixing the problem, and then reply as an engineer of some kind, going, yeah, that's totally possible, let's make it happen, or I can make that happen on your command. And then with that, he could be doing his thing in their minds, and eventually you just go to the repair menu and go, sure, yeah, warps are repaired now, everything's fine, we're back on track. Alright, so we've warped into a sector, or we've jumped into the next sector, and you can see it's spawned in. We have a bunch of civilians, a mix of civilians and USN, I think. We have an aura traffic control, we have an aura security patrol there, we got a bunch of civilian ships, and we have a relay. So let's make these guys go this way, back to there. I'm just going to let them go at impulse just now, because I don't want to have to control them. I want to show you what I'm thinking. So we said Dionysus Outpost had a task for them because people were being attacked in the trade lanes. So quickly as they jumped into the sector, you could be adding more ships. You could open up the N menu for ships, or in fact H for hostiles. And if you wanted to add individual hostiles like raiders or something, you could use the raider menu and add a scrapper, add a harasser, that kind of thing. Or you could use a fleet spawner, number 8 there, and put in a fleet. So combat fleet is number 3. I'm just going to leave the number of ships up to the actual spawner, and I'm going to I've pressed 3 for combat. I'm just going to go 8 for raider, and then let it spawn in some fleet of some kind. And again, this would happen. You would do this as they were spawning in, as they were jumping into the sector. And Artemis loading stuff in like this, it's a little slow, but it's kind of to be expected. Artemis is what it is. Alright, so we have a fleet of 3 ships have spawned in, and now they're going to do their thing. And if you think maybe they're not close enough, you want them to be right in there, again, they've got in their mind what target they want to do. Open up the ship menu. You can use the set ship speed and toggle warp. It does exactly the same as the other elite systems, and just get them into space, but be sure to turn it off. They might turn it off themselves at some point. Just keep an eye on them, essentially. When you're micromanaging ship speed like this, it can be a little messy. So they're in position. It's a mess for the players. Aura up here, coming in to obviously help. Maybe they would warp into position. So I'm in the same menu. I've just pushed 3 again, and they're on their way. So he's coming in to attack. You might, if you're GMing with someone else, you might ask that someone else get on the comms and start being these other characters. Start being C28, like shouting out to Aura Traffic Control that they need more help. And so Aura Traffic Control then could spawn more ships. Oh, I need to sort out whether that is. That's annoying. So Aura, here we go. Make a military patrol this time. And then he's got in his mind what he wants to do, because he's targeting enemies. So just open the ship menu again, elite systems, warp. Get him to warp into the situation here. And we're actually in a difficulty level which is causing no damage, so let's set it to difficulty level 6, and now people will hopefully take some damage. Wow. Tough little ship. Alright, and so they're fighting, and this guy is coming in. Gonna go ahead and set his warp to off when he gets into position. And so the situation is being dealt with somewhat. And if you want to have other people coming into the sector, obviously you could spawn in a civilian ship of some kind. But say this gets out of hand. Say the Aura traffic control once again has realized that they're not going to be able to control what's going on here because a bunch more raider ships have spawned into the sector, or have jumped into the sector. Then they might, they might, if you're the GM, you might speak as Aura traffic control, sending out a distress call to all stations, whatever. Or there are other traffic control or main stations within the trade sectors up north. And so after a little bit of time, after the players have tried their best to clear out this area, you might bring in a ship fleet from Aura. And so let's use the fleet spawner again. Fleet spawner. Let's make combat and Aura. So it's going to be 1-1. Oh, it should be 1-2. No, I've just messed up. So I'm going to use the back and go fleet spawner 3, 1, and then put them on our side to make sure they are friendly. And so a combat fleet is going to come in here. And now every single one of these is so far away that they're going to be, they're going to be responding at a decent speed. So I've been using the Elite Systems menu and the Ship Speed menu. I think I'm just going to use the Ship Speed menu to toggle warp. Toggle warp. Oh, these guys are already warping. There we go. Awesome. Now, these ships have elite AI in their brain, and that has a timer on it. So when you tell them to warp, if that timer ticks down, then they'll stop warping. So you have to kind of keep an eye on them a little bit. As you can see, that one has just ticked down. So I'm just going to put it up again. And now they're all warping down the trade lane. And unfortunately, warp is a set speed. Previously, my solution for bringing vessels in... Oh, that guy might not want to go that way. Let's get him over there. So I've just pressed S and then set his waypoint. And now I'm going to get him to warp. Oh, he's already warping. So he's trying to warp out of the way to save his own life. Alright. So, warp, unfortunately, is kind of a set speed. There's only one kind of warp for NPC ships. My previous solution for this was actually to use the ship speed menu to increase their top speed, but their acceleration and deceleration is kind of erratic, and I felt like if you want them to go to warp, the actual warp drive that they use for Elite should be enough. That being said, you can increase their impulse, so you can increase their base speed if you really want to by a little bit, and that'll hopefully help them go a little bit faster. And you could also use the same upgrade menu, this engine menu here, the engine upgrade, to upgrade their engines a little bit and increase the maneuverability. That's what that one does. And obviously you could do shields as well. You could totally, with NPC ships, when you increase shields, it happens immediately. So you can see I'm just giving this guy tons of shields, and I could take it down. They're waiting for that guy, that's why they stopped. So yeah, you kind of have to keep an eye on your fleets a little bit if they're coming in from way over in space. But luckily your job is to kind of keep your eye on what's going on rather than play, rather than not play, sorry, rather than keep your eye on how the players are doing. Sometimes you might want to keep your eye on how the players are doing, but more often than not, you don't need to so much. Optimize maneuver. There we go. You can see just fucking evasive maneuvers. All right. Anyway, we have outlined a combat scenario here, fairly roughly. So, you've you know, we've done spawning ships, setting various things about them. Let's talk a little bit more about how to use things like set side. Say this guy here has been communicating with the players, and this is all not happening. He's been communicating with the players, trying to draw them in or something. You could have him as a neutral person, saying he's got a problem, sort of setting out a distress signal of some kind. The players go over, and it's an ambush. So you would use the set side, and then just set his side to whatever you want. Now, 2 is the friendly side. 1 I've set is the aura side. Every other side that is not the player side is an enemy side, which is unfortunate. It's just the way Artemis is. But say for the raiders, it's 8. And the way you find this out is through the cheat sheet. We have a list of races and faction codes here. So that's faction codes more. There is the side codes here. So civilian and aura should be on the same side. USN on side 2, but I actually have civilian and aura on side 2 as well. And then all the rest of them here have their own numbers for sides. So yeah, you make your best judgment for that. So this guy becomes a raider. I actually think that with one of the future updates, there's going to be the ability to change the ship text of a ship that's actually selected. So I'll be able to change that from Terran Corp as well, or Sherlin Corp rather, to be Raider as you change their faction. But right now it's just a color change, and obviously as a result a behavioral change. And since this guy is continuously warping, I'm going to stop him from warping. And I'm going to make these guys warp, because they're taking their time. There we go. Alright. What else is in this S menu for you? We've got upgrades. If you want to give them a permanent upgrade, like you want to add warp and cloak and jump and stuff like that. Say you want to make sure a ship has just got it in his mind that he can jump. Then what you would do is select what you want on this menu and then press 1 to apply, and they will use it as and when they see fit, although the AI is not incredibly smart with that stuff. Sometimes it works out good, sometimes it does not. And if you want to toggle surrender, if you want to make a ship look like it's like running away or something, like this guy up here is flying in, he looks big and menacing, this guy's like, ah, fuck this, and he turns away out of there. Alright, so ship waypoint, ship speed, all that other stuff on the ship control menu. That's a massive part of my manipulation anyway of this game space. That and sort of spawning ships, pretty much the only places I have to go. I occasionally get to the upgrade part. Let's talk about other things here though. If you say you want your players, let's say you're in a research sector of some kind. Yeah, say you're in a research sector of some kind, and there's an experimental, not experimental. Say they're researching destabilizations in the space-time, and this would obviously make wormholes. Or I say obviously, this could easily lead to wormholes. This is when I would use something like the mission menu. So say let's make a relay. So relay is an environment. Let's make a relay. So this is their node. This is the thing they have been studying, and they ask you to go and look at it. So you go and look at it. Maybe it's been damaged or something, so you could set it up to be damaged. Damage tactical. You can see sensors are disabled. You could also toggle shields to make it look like it's been damaged, that kind of thing. And sadly, both these things are going to try and regenerate. But if you want to, it's a good way to start it up, and you can just continuously do it in order to make it look like it's damaged. And you could also just damage the shields, I suppose, so they wouldn't regenerate so well, causing that kind of problem. But anyway, we have a relay which is malfunctioning, shall we say, and this is perhaps a dangerous bit of space. Then going over to it, I would imagine the ships, the crew, they might either go up to themselves and try and analyze through the computer, or they might send out a shuttle. And if they don't send out a shuttle and you really want them to, you can obviously communicate that through roleplay. If they get up close, you could play some kind of science officer saying that maybe they should, take a closer look with an away team or something, and that kind of plants that idea in their mind for future sessions as well. So let's stop the ship. say they have gotten to that point when they want to launch an away team. A couple of ways you can do this. The most simple way that I enjoy more is the G menu. Now, in the G menu, there's a bunch of stuff to control the game and just general game things like difficulty, transition requirements, whether you've got the mod installed or not, spawning some certain items. In this case, we're going to go to the spawn item menu, and you can see that we've got collectibles. So maybe there's a couple of parts that have fallen off the relay because of the distress of the space. Maybe you have like collectibles spawn by pressing 1, and then these collectibles pop up, and they go around collecting them, and once they have collected them, they can attach them back to the relay. And so you would spawn something like, using the G menu again, the shuttle. So you can see number 3 there is spawn shuttle. Spawn the shuttle right in front of the ship, and then give it a waypoint using the S menu. So it'll fly over to the relay, and then we will have a situation where you've got an away team that goes to a destination to fix something. So say they've collected all these collectibles, and you sent the shuttle across with all the parts. They do the repair, and they would obviously collect these things here, but I'm just going to use the item menu to remove them. So you see number 2 is remove collectibles. Boom, away they go. So they do a repair, and you roleplay back and forth the NPCs in the shuttle, and perhaps they have some information that has come from the relay now that it is repaired. So you would set their waypoint back to the ship, and if you wanted to hurry them up about it, again, you could use the elite systems or the set speed, and there they go, warping away all the way back to the ship. And when they get back to the ship, you make sure that you obviously don't have them at warp. And it's a good idea to set their waypoint past the ship at this point, so they keep going and bump into it, so you can delete them like that. Obviously you have to do it all by hand, which is unfortunate, but hey. And now we have a relay with some information that has come back to the crew, and perhaps that information is a space where they can go and do something where there has been some very interesting activity, space-time activity, quantum activity, shall we say. Say it's right over here for the sake of brevity. So the players turn their ship around, they go over there, and maybe you have to ask them as a GM, you have to ask them to set their sensors to full, really burn out their sensors. Try their best to hold their sensors at a height for a certain time. Now, as a GM, you've got no way of knowing whether they've done that or not, but they can communicate with you, and if they're playing, then they're role playing. Hopefully, they're gonna do it. And so after a certain amount of time, you could send like little messages through this. So you could say from engineering. Oh, that's engineer. Engineering. They can't take it, Captain. Is that it? I think I've messed that up. Sure, I think that's probably it there. Exclamation mark. Many of them. And then you send the comms message. It pops up in the comm window there. Whatever you would like, obviously, just a bit of flavor. Or again, you could do it over voice. Or you could use this to perhaps better effect doing something like quantum scan. So you leave quantum scan there, and then 12%. Let's just put the percentage sign in there. Comm message pops up in the comms like that, and then as they're deciding what they're going to do, maybe a couple of monsters pop in, and so they've got to go and they've got to think about the fact that there's a few monsters coming at them. Maybe just a dragon there, and then a little bit later on, as they're sitting scanning away, you do 47%, something like that. Kind of build it up so that they can, so that the comms officer has something to report that is integral to the story at this point. And then finally, once it is scanned entirely, you give them the option to trigger it, or it triggers by itself, however you would like it to be, at which point you could do something like using the wormhole menu, so M, wormhole, and then set to this sector, because that's where I want it to be, and it'll be wormhole, I want to do wormhole 2, I'm going to set the position right there. There we go, and then When you're ready, toggle wormholes. And we have a big wormhole that spawns up. And the players are like, shit, I'm getting pulled into a wormhole. Bad times. Little did they know that it's not going to kill them, it's going to transport them somewhere. Perhaps you could communicate that through scanning this seems like a very stable wormhole that they can travel through. Or perhaps you could have communications that come from the other side, which intrigue them, letting them understand that maybe there's something a little bit different about this black hole that they're getting sucked into. And maybe you could have wrecks and things get spat out by it. So going back to the environment menu, if you push E and then you press it again, it's got wreckage there. You could have wreckage that gets spat out, like that, and they'll get sucked back in as well, of course. But and so your ship, or your players are all getting sucked into this wormhole, and they transition through the wormhole. There we go. Transition through the wormhole into a new patch of space, completely blank. Now, I left it in a blank space. I could have set it to somewhere else, but we're in a blank space now. So you've wormholed them somewhere. They have gone to the wormhole, and you could make this completely alien space up entirely, or you could use something like a random sector generator. So I'm going to use the random sector generator. Environment. Menu again, you've got manual or random. I would like to make it the manual sector generator. Type 4, mixed. I'm going to make it the Corellian faction, and I'm going to set the infrastructure to 1, because they're in wormhole space. And then I'm going to hold space, and this is going to make it very dense, hopefully. It's going to give it the possibility for being very dense. Oh no, my station is moving. This is bad times. Let's set my ship speed to stop. Or is that 5 now? I just haven't changed the number. There we go. That was weird. Stations usually don't move, and they're set up so that they have it in their mind that they're not going to move, but occasionally they do. And so you have to use the speed menu to stop them. But here we are in a Corellian sector. It's got low infrastructure. Apparently quite a lot of traffic though. Corellian cargo ships and transports. There's a repair ship transport as well. Dreadnoughts, we've got a bit more of a combat thing here, and we've got a planet called Koannis. Let's go investigate Koannis. So, say they've flown there, obviously I'm just jumping in there. But yeah, here we go. Koannis is a bit too far out apparently for us to see. Let's move in just a little. There we go, Koannis, a big barren rock of a moon essentially. And we have, what is this, a shipyard, a Corellian shipyard. Oh, odd. So now it's spawned this random sector. Why are you moving? Oh, I know why you're moving. That's not movement at all, that's warp. I know you. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at that a little bit, but hopefully they will not be moving when this gets released. I let them turn. I let stations turn because they have defenses, some of them, and I want them to be able to face their defenses and their shields in the direction of the enemy, and so they can turn. Anyway, we're in Koannis. Or we're in a sector with the planet Koannis there. But what if this sector perhaps had some defenses? What if they had weapons platforms? Let's spawn stations. So we've got station spawner there, and under the B menu this is, by the way. You can have tons of regular stations like this, or you can spawn enemy stations which appear like that as ships essentially, and I've also got the station spawner for all the stations that I've put together. So, station code, let's 33 I believe is weapons platform, and we're in a Corellian sector, so it's going to be 33 and then 33 again for Corellian. So this should be a Corellian weapons platform, and it's immediately firing at us, great. So we have a weapons platform, and you can see it's pretty beefy, it's got a decent amount of shields there. And what would they be defending? Let's just take the station spawner. Oh, didn't do that. Take the station spawner. Oh, I need to go back. Do that again. There we go. So take the station spawner, and create a random Corellian station. I want to know what this thing is protecting, and it's protecting a military outpost. That makes sense. That's kind of nice. So now you've got a bit of context for what's happening in this sector. We have a military outpost. Apparently, Koanis is worth putting a military outpost outside of, and so now you have something to base any sort of storyline off of if you didn't already have one in mind. And this is kind of how I like to work when I'm doing D&D and any other role plays. I like to have obviously some preparation, people, places, but to a large extent, I like the moment to dictate what goes on. And so by generating things, by being on your toes and like seeing what's in the sector and going, okay, I want this planet to have something. This is a bit of a bare sector. Maybe there should be some conflict in this sector. So let's make. In fact, yeah, maybe they're struggling with monsters. So I'm going to push the X menus, open up the monsters. They're struggling with a bunch of sharks that occasionally just pop up, or bugs that appear to be infesting a nebula or something like that. That's what this sector struggles with. And then you could have it that the Corellian ships perhaps can't handle the amount of bugs, and so the players, because to be honest with you, AI in this game currently do not fight bugs. There's no AI block that lets them attack the bugs. It annoys the crap out of me. Anyway, maybe as a result they don't attack the bugs. They can't deal with them. Ships are being destroyed, and you coming in helps you gain favor with this Corellian faction in this new space that you've just come into. And maybe it's startings of some sort of diplomatic understanding, or they might be curious as to how the hell you came through that hole. All their ships have been destroyed, hence the wreckage on the other side. You know, you could really take this in any direction that you want it to. And I guess that's the power of GMing in a sandbox. I'm trying to make the tools easy enough to use so that you don't have to worry about how to use them, about what you're doing. You don't have to worry about how to use them. You have to worry more about what you're doing in the game. And the game is what you make it, whether you bring it to life a lot or you just kind of leave the players to go pew pew and kill a lot of things. Anyway, I think one last thing I'd like to touch on with regards to using the sandbox is PvP, because obviously we do set up PvP. So let's take us to a blank sector once again. Let's use the Q menu to sector 0, 0. I think I'm already in 0, 0, so this is going to do nothing. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm going to take me to sector 1. There we go. So now I'm in a completely blank sector, and your players might be there as well. And there might be a bunch of PvP style sectors, but say you wanted to set one up. A common theme when making PvP sectors is to have some symmetry going there. So let's say we use the station spawner to give them a place to defend. Let's make a USN station of some kind. So we got a USN shipyard. It's a strange one to have for a shipyard, but maybe it's small. Station spawner again. Let's go for another USN station. So I'm just pressing 2 each time, and it's giving me different things. Got a repair dry dock. Man, this is coming out lovely, isn't it? Oh no, stop moving. You so annoy me. Let's just clear this guy's AI, because then he won't do anything. Stop. Alright, cool. In fact, NPCs and enemies. That's all I want you to focus on. Anyway. So we have a repair dry dock, we have a shipyard, and maybe we want to have a weapons platform that kind of defends them a little bit. So let's make, once again, 7, 33, 22. There we go. It's going to be a new weapons platform for them. Yeah. Good stuff. Okay, so we have a weapons platform for dry dock and shipyard. And that's the USN side. And maybe there's just been like an incursion of ships or something, and they have put up a de facto fortress of sorts. Let's put in a fortress. Now I need to have a look at this cheat sheet. So this is how you would use the cheat sheet. If you are putting something in, looking for stations, there we go, station, and fortress, 34. Let's put in a fortress, make it Torgoth fortress. So 34 and 4 for Torgoth. It's an asteroid fortress. Alright, and maybe it has got a little bit of defenses that they've sort of built up. Let's go for a weapons platform for it as well. So 33, 44. Oh, both the same station. Interesting. Oh, don't do that! You so annoy me so... Oh, fuck. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You suck. Stop warping. There we go. Like I said, I will look into that and find out exactly why it is. Alright. So we have a Torgoth weapons platform and a Torgoth fortress. You can see the fortress, huge amount of shields, and the weapons platform, decent amount of shields as well. So they're gonna be fairly beefy to defeat, and that's kind of what I wanted. Like stations in the main game are kind of flimsy, and when you destroy a station, it should feel like an accomplishment. And when a station is destroyed by NPC ships, it should feel like a tragedy. But instead, it's just like, oh, that station's totally gonna die because there's ships around it. So. Now we have this setup, and you might want to do this before obviously you play the game, but now we have a setup of an area. Maybe we should have some mines. So let's make a nebulous kind of area in the center using the nebula tool, just holding 2 now and right clicking where I want it to be going, and then I can just, you know, fill it in wherever I want it. Make a bit more down here. There we go. And maybe in this nebula, this can sort of be a collectibles area, a shared collectibles area if you like. I'm going to put a minefield right about here, so right click and space, right click and space, big minefield across there, and we're just going to have a bunch of anomalies in this place. So I'm just going to bash on the keyboard, making anomalies all in this space, and I also want to make a black hole down here, just so that they're going to get sucked in occasionally. So if I go environment again, black holes, just create a black hole right here. You can see they're going to start drifting into the black hole, and over the period of the game, make another one there maybe. over the period of the game, they are periodically, I guess, going to get sucked into the black hole, removing them from play. So kind of a bit of a timer on their ability to take enhancements and things. Not that the enhancements actually do that much these days, because I'm pretty sure a lot of these don't have the button which is required to activate them, but some of them do. Okay, and you could also make collectibles. You could put collectibles in there which do specific things in the game which you as a GM could enforce. But anyway, we've got this area now, and maybe they just have to get across there and kill things. Maybe we should have a third party in here, the stricken ships are like messing with people. Or it could be, again, monsters. We could just have a bunch of monsters that are minding their own business in the center, and in sort of passing by in some way we have space monsters, 2 the massive space monsters, and then just a bunch of bugs. There we go. And so now we have a setup for a PvP match. Perhaps we want the rest of this space to be unstable in that occasionally wormholes will spawn. I set up in the wormhole menu, no I didn't, it was the environment menu. Environment menu, under black holes, we have shifting black holes here. So if I use that, set the intensity to 6, there we go, unstable wormhole spawning. Now you can see these stars. These stars denote where these wormholes are going to spawn. And you can see that they just spawn up. And over a bit of time, depending on the intensity, the higher the intensity, the more the wormholes are, and the quicker they jump positions. But right now, they're just sort of intensity 6, and they'll disappear, and you'll see new ones around here. And I put these little stars, I want to put these little stars there to let the players know that if they're flying into a sector, if they're flying into space and there's one of these stars there, it's kind of a pre-warning that this is an unstable piece of space and you might want to get out. And it only lasts for a couple of seconds at the very most. So it's almost like an early sensor reading that this, we need to get the hell out of here. And over the course of the game, the players could be flying around and accidentally crash into one. It could be a big game changer, and it could wipe out a bunch of ships that are flying across. So Let's spawn in a Torgoth fleet. Fleet ships. Oh, a fleet is already being spawned. Where? Is that a lie? Have you just lied to me? Let's clear that out. Oh, right, I see. So a fleet wasn't already being spawned. If that ever happens, where the station spawner, the ship spawner, or the fleet spawner seems to hang, press 0 and it'll clear it out. And now we should be able to spawn a fleet. So fleet spawning 344 for Torgoth. Oh, the Torgoth stations. They're awfully close. There we go. Torgoth ships being spawned up there. And for the purposes of this PvP session, I just want to set their AI. So set AI to player. Only going to kill the player, nothing else. And there we go. If you set them to core AI, by the way, core AI has a mix of sort of attacking AI ships and attacking players, and it also has a few other things like elites, using elite abilities and things. So it's a pretty balanced core AI. And if ever you're in doubt as to like what they should be doing, if they're just sort of stopped, set them to core AI. It's the best way to do it. Obviously, I could go on just adding stuff in here, but we have a space which is fairly lethal. You could even have something like the wormhole that helps you travel from place to place. You could even have something like this. Set up the wormhole so that we're setting it to this sector. We're going to set wormhole 1 to here. Set position. Yep, to there. And then we're going to set wormhole 2 to there. Nice and easy. Since we're in the set to this position, set to this sector place, all we have to do is click wormhole 1, tell it where to be, click wormhole 2, tell it where to be, and now we have wormholes which you can traverse from one side of the map to the other with. Now, communicating this to your players might be a little bit hard, and especially with the mess of wormholes which is around just now, but a good way to do it might be perhaps to just have a ship, have an NPC ship, go from like here and then just jump him over to the other wormhole so that they can see that that's gonna help them travel. Or you could just choose not to have a bunch of wormholes in the sector, or we could take these wormholes away. So if I go remove black holes, so now we have no wormholes down here, and all the moving wormholes are the ones that they don't want to go into. However, the moving wormholes occasionally stick around, so they might take a little while to realize which ones don't move. And obviously it's kind of obvious because they're in the corners, but if you put them somewhere else it'd be very different. Anyway, my point is, we have a space now for PvP play, and you can, as a GM, again, like make it more interesting, jump things in, create extra little tasks, like creating wrecks and things to get them the kind of fuel they require for sustained battle, collectibles which you can then reward them with upgrades. You can maybe use this to send a message saying that collectible alpha, which I'll just spawn collectible alpha just now. Spawn item, collectible alpha. Appears to contain some information which will help them upgrade their shields, or you could use escape pods to as a sort of side mission to save some people who've been like smashed out of their ship by the Torgoths or something, just for a bit of fun. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling on. This has been just a general series, I guess, of videos for you guys to hopefully understand a little better how this, all the work that's gone into this, and how it can be utilized to its full potential. And the last thing I would really want is for all this, all this to be here and you guys not to know about it. So have fun telling stories, and have a bit more fun with Artemis. On a last note, I've heard very recently that there is an update coming for Artemis, which is going to implement a GUI. And if that happens, awesome. I hope it's a robust GUI, because I can definitely convert what we already have here into a GUI. from what I've seen of the GUI, it currently isn't, and it also seems to disable the GM key presses, which makes me a little sad. So in future, the backwards compatibility of this mission might be compromised, depending on like what happens with updates. And if that's the case, I can't guarantee that I'm going to update it. But again, you guys understanding what's in here, someone else might be able to. However, right now, it is what it is. For me, very useful tool for making GMing in Artemis much more interesting, easy, and fun. Have fun, guys, and I'll see you another time.